lecture, we'll be going over what a geologist does. So basically, we'll be talking about what their job entails, the different fields of geology, payments, and employment within the U.S. So what does geology entail? Before we get started, we're going to talk about a little bit of a background information about geology so we can learn more about what a geologist is actually doing. So geology is a relatively young field of science. It was recently revolutionized around the last 50 years by a new emerging theory of plate tectonics. It's also a very diverse field. It is actually one of the most diverse scientific fields there are, and the field itself is actually expected to increase in demand by 20% over the next decade. And this could contribute to the fact that there's so many different career paths one could take with a geology degree. On top of that, geology also involves fieldwork. So, due to the fact that geology is the study of Earth and its physical features and structures and substances that come with it, oftentimes it requires geologists to actually go out in the field to make their observations and collect data and then come back and make write-up reports in order to make their conclusions from there. So what is a geologist? A geologist is someone who studies Earth processes. They are concerned with changes that are occurring within the Earth over time, and their job is to figure out what it is that they have to do about these things. So they can either decide, okay, this is a good process, we will leave this alone, or this is a bad process, and they will try to figure out why exactly that is happening and how exactly they can fix that. So what does a geologist do? Well, clearly, due to the fact that there are so many different fields within geology, geologists do a lot. As previously stated, geologists study Earth processes. They assess questions about the Earth and figure out safe ways to obtain answers to these things. For example, they see that we need fossil fuels, so they figure out safe ways to obtain these natural resources in order for us to continue our daily lives. So therefore, on top of studying natural resources, they also study natural hazards. So they determine the causes of landslides, volcanoes, floods, and earthquakes, and they basically just study these things in order to prepare for them safely. For landslides, they determine the causes of them, how we are affected by them, and how we can try to avoid them in the future. They research different volcano types and determine if the volcanoes are going to erupt, and if they are going to erupt and you live nearby the volcano, they provide safety tips on how to go about everything safely, whether you have to evacuate or just find fresh air. They determine what a flood is and what exactly causes a flood. And when they go from there, if someone has a flood occurring in their area, they determine what to do before the flood in order to prepare, during the flood in order to stay safe, and what to do after the flood. For after the flood, they determine how you fix everything up, like what damage is the flood going to cause to the environment you're in, and how exactly to quickly get back to your normal routine about life. And for earthquakes, they determine when and where an earthquake will occur, and exactly how strong the earthquake is going to be. Does it call for people to evacuate the city? Is it just a little shaking and all that? So this seems to be the most common form of geology that people usually associate with a geologist. In terms of what career someone who is determining all of this would have, they would most likely be an environmental geologist. And so that's one career you could take with a geology degree. And an environmental geologist is someone who attempts to solve the problems associated with natural hazards and study the effects that humans have on the environment. So that's exactly what an environmental geologist would be doing with what I just explained according to the graph next to us. They would be determining earthquakes, floods, volcanoes, landslides, how those affect humans, how we affect that, and determining what exactly they are and how we can stay safe and avoid these things. So on top of an environmental geologist, there are actually many, many more careers to pursue. So there are many career options for geologists, and what a geologist does lands on a very large range, and this is because there are many subsections within geology in which someone could specialize in. So numerous types of geologist jobs are available because They involve working within smaller specialized fields of geology. And some examples of these things would be a paleontologist, who is a geologist that studies fossils, a geochemist, someone who studies Earth's chemistry through examination of the natural resources that Earth provides us with. So therefore, they would be looking into Earth's chemistry with things such as rocks, water, the atmosphere, and the ocean. Oceanographers, they study the ocean. Volcanologists, who specialize in the study of volcanoes and predicting when a volcano will erupt, if it's going to erupt. And as seen from the chart, all the possible careers within geology aren't even covered, therefore showing how vast the job section truly is. With the chart, it's just broken down into larger sections of petroleum geologists working for the government, academia, mining, environmental, executive management, and other fields. Therefore, like, these fields are broken down even more to smaller jobs within the fields, like petroleum engineers. If you're working for the government, you could just be like advising and all that type of stuff. Okay. So what is required to become a geologist? In order to become a geologist, you need to finish the requirements to get there. So what is suggested education-wise is a minimum of a bachelor's degree is required for any job. If you're going to be working in a mine, or maybe you're going to be scuba diving or going out into a field, sometimes certification is required in order for you to actually get out in the field and do that work. Also, it is advised that you get your master's degree because it's more education and you'll get more options at doing field work and working out in the field and have more experience with that. If you want to teach geology at a higher level, such as college, a doctorate's degree is what's required. And basically, if you want to major in anything geology and you want to go into geology field, any education is required, but what's most advised is to get a master's degree because that'll help you out the most. And once you have a master's degree and you're doing fieldwork itself has its own requirements too. So some requirements of fieldwork is that you need to somewhat be a people person, because you need to be able to work with groups really well and share your ideas with people. And on top of that, you need to be able to work outdoors in a field that you're really specialized in. And even when it comes to that, sometimes you have to be able to relocate to go follow your job and study something else somewhere else. And on top of that, while gathering your data, you have to be able to analyze the data that you're finding out in the field and then use that data in order to support the hypothesis that you have made, and use the observations from all this to go back from your field work and go into your office and write up your reports on the findings and what exactly you found. So here are some more details about geologist jobs. So there's an expected increase in the future demand for petrochemical and fossil fuel related areas. This would entail being a petroleum geologist, and these people specialize in the production of oils and natural gases, and they explore these fields and how exactly you could get these natural gases safely and all that. Right now, the highest demand for this field is currently in Texas, and most people in the United States that are doing field work have a master's degree level of education with working with geology. And the average salary of these people is $89,000 a year. However, the salaries do vary. So someone could be working as a petroleum geologist and working with oils and gas, and they can make around $130,000 a year, while educators are roughly making around $66,000 a year. And these wages are actually hypothesized to increase over the next decade or so, because when the job is in such a high demand, the salaries are going to go up. And so, especially with the petroleum and geologists and working with oils and natural resources, those salaries are really going to skyrocket once the demand goes up. And there are currently around 36,000 people employed in the U.S. with a geology degree working somewhere within the field. And this isn't that much, but there's still so many different fields that people are working within. So the 36,000 are not just environmental geologists, but they're petroleum geologists, paleontologists, a bunch of the different branches all over the place. So that's all for my lesson about what a geologist does. So I hope you learned a few things from my video. We definitely talked about a few different types of geologist jobs that there are, and how there's really not just one set job for geologists. There are really so many career paths that you could go down if you want to aspire to be a geologist. I hope that this video helped you if that's your goal in life and you do want to become a geologist. Maybe you realize that you don't want to do school for a doctorate's degree and you just want to work in the field and do a master's degree, and you learn from that wow, paleontology is really interesting. I didn't think that was a geology field. I thought a geologist just discovered earthquakes and all that. So I really hope you walk away from this video learning something, and thank you.